Right. Good afternoon, and of course, as Melissa said, thank you for joining us for our weekly press briefing. We really feel that this is an important opportunity to share information from the city to our residents. First, let me begin with a reminder. I want to remind everyone that National Night Out is tomorrow. So for all of those communities that have signed up, look for us to be driving through. It's a celebration of not only our public safety, but we believe that it's a celebration of unity in the city, unity in the community. And so we look forward to joining you. Please bring your fun. We have a good time with that. Secondly, I want to remind you that the State of the City address will be this Thursday at 6 p.m. and it will be here at the Rookery. You know that we have made it our tradition to move the State of the City to different locations, not only to showcase our city, but as a statement of the various things that our city has to offer. And so with that, I'd like to invite Dee Nixon to come forward and tell you a little bit about this space that we're in right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor. We're honored to have you all here with us today. As he said, I am Dee Booker Nixon, the owner of the Rookery. We're elated to host the State of the Union coming up this week. We welcome all of you. The Rookery's name means the gathering place. And as we are all gathered here today, we want to welcome you to host your next signature event with us. We feel we are Jackson's premier event center for downtown Jackson. This building was actually built in 1904. And we wanted to keep the integrity of the history and give a nod to our history, our culture, and obviously historical downtown Jackson. And so we're inviting you all to come back with us this Thursday and to host your next upcoming events. In case you're wanting to book with us, please follow us on our website, which is the Rookery MS, that is THE, Rookery, ROOKERYMS.com. And we are here for you, and again, we welcome all of you and look forward to a great State of the City on this Thursday. Thank you.
All right. Thank you again. We really are excited about our State of the City and excited to have it hosted in this space. I will have an exhaustive list, but I also want to thank the many sponsors who will support a number of refreshments and things for us to enjoy the evening. And so we look forward to the State of the City. Come and hear what not only I have to say, but there will be some other special guests included in my speech. In addition, there is a day party which is honoring survivors of breast cancer and domestic violence and honoring those victims. That will be Friday outside of City Hall. Guest speakers will be present, and there will be food trucks. Unfortunately, I will be traveling out of town, so I personally won't be present with you, but please have a good time, have a party for a purpose, and certainly learn more not only about breast cancer awareness, but domestic violence and the victims of domestic violence. Christmas parade is December 9th. We are taking sign-up sheets now. Please reach out to our Constituent Services Department, Mr. Chris Gray. He's a big man. All right, I don't know how I was missing him initially, but please sign up. We're looking for participants. We've had some amazing Christmas parades in the past. We don't want this to be any exception. Not only do we want to have fun and enjoy the moment, we really want to bring in the spirit of the holiday together. And so we're asking that you sign up and participate. But I guess before we have Christmas, we have Halloween. And we have Boo at the Zoo, which is Monday, October 30th, and that is from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. It is Merry, Not Scary event. I want y'all to know that that is not a slogan of Chokwe Lumumba. That is credited to Miss Melissa Faith Payne. So as corny as it is, please give her the credit for it. Mary, she wants to put it on someone else. She said it's on the flyer. So, whether we refer to it as Halloween or Harvest Festival, we want people to come out, Boo at the Zoo. We want you to have a good time. Once again, have fellowship Let's commune with one another and enjoy. There are carnival games, face paint, arts and craft. Of course, there will be lots of candy passed out, and it is free for kids that are 12 and under. Once again, it is free for kids that are 12 and under. There is one other thing that I'd like to say. I meant to say this at the top of the hour. This is something that I have to do. It's not related to much of anything. But at my barber shop, I am an avid Lions fan, if y'all know me. And my barber is, well, the guy who's next to my barber is an avid Ravens fan. And I shared with him if he beat my Lions that I would call him out in this press conference. So his name, well, we call him by a different name, so I'll tell you what we call him, but I gotta make sure I got it. His real name is Robert Turner. So Robert Turner, your Ravens won. Better known to his customers as Pimp. That is not me calling him Pimp. But that is who everybody knows him as. His Ravens won. I won't mention that our running back was out, that our DBs were out. We basically were playing with our third team, but that's neither here nor there. They won. But that aside, we want to get to some more serious matters, and I ask that the chief come forward and reiterate an announcement that we have made. We have shared with our residents that there is a vulnerable population when it comes to car break-ins and theft. And so we want to remind you to take extra precaution if you fall in this category. We want to make certain that we're passing on good information so that we become the safest city that we can be. All right, thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon. As the mayor stated, we still have a group of individuals that are targeting citizens who drive Kias and Hyundais. We've had 15 of these vehicles stolen in the month of October. 15, 8 Kias, 7 Hyundais. So we're asking for the citizens to help us help you. Take some preventive measures to secure your vehicle, whether it's in a garage, whether it's being blocked in by another vehicle, because these individuals are targeting you. We have made some arrests, but apparently we have not made the right arrest in this matter. So please help us help you. And we are very vigilant in trying to locate these individuals. We're trying to get additional information on them, but they are coming to citizens' homes, and they're also targeting vehicles left in parking lots that fit their criteria. So whatever you can do to help us help you, we would appreciate that, but we want to make sure that you know that you are being targeted by these suspects. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you. Please, we are sharing this information for your benefit. Whether you are the individual who drives a Kia or a Hyundai, or you know someone who does, please share this information, protect your neighbors. There are some simple solutions that we believe make you less vulnerable to this attack. This is due to, I think, a slight, manufacturing malfunction or glitch that they take advantage of based on your vehicle. And so we don't want to leave anybody exposed. Heed the warning now. Next, I'd like to speak or invite our city attorney and our public works director to speak about another matter, and that is one that came up in a press conference, I believe, this past weekend, talking about Habitat for Humanity homes and an issue with sewer. Let's be clear that the city of Jackson has been in a consent decree since 2012. And so it was stated that these issues predated our third-party administrator. Absolutely. First of all, the issues of sewer predate me. That's how long we've been dealing with them, for some time. However, we are trying to have a more realistic approach to how we address these issues of sewer. And so right now we have talked about the fact that the third-party administrator is responsible today for any repairs going forward. But to provide more clarity to the history of the matter that was talked about in that press conference, I'd like to invite both our Robert Lee and our city attorney forward to speak to. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. So in the press conference over the weekend, there was discussion over some sewer issues on Smith Robinson Street. And we do have on council tomorrow, we are going to settle some issues with one of the homeowners who had damage to her house. We had some other houses that did get damaged when sewer backed up. And we do have a history of what has happened and what remedial steps we made over time as far as cleaning out clogs and fixing the line. But we are working, well, we were working, that is now on the third-party manager, but we were working on Smith Robinson Street, both cleaning out clogs and repairing the line over the last 2 or 3 years to try to help remediate the issues on this street. Tori, would you like to?
Yeah, I'll just add real quickly, Tori Martin, the city attorney. So on Smith Robinson Street, it sounds like our issues began from us looking at the records in 2019. And in 2019, we started receiving calls from residents. At the same time, our Public Works Department started responding to those calls. And so we have many instances through the years where our Public Works Department came out, they cleared the line, they choked the line, they did what they could to try and fix the problem until eventually in May of 2023, we did a full repair at the corner of Smith Robinson Street and Roadway. And so we believe that that repair hopefully will fix most of the issues that those residents incurred. But in terms of liability, the city of Jackson, as the mayor stated, entered into a consent decree with the Environmental Protection Agency in 2012. As part of that consent decree, the city of Jackson has an obligation to pay for sewage backup in homes. And that's not an admission of liability, but that was part of our agreement with them at the time that we would take responsibility for that backup. However, that does not automatically make the city of Jackson responsible for the backup itself. And so when we go back through the records, we look from 2019 to 2023, what we see is that there was an issue on the street. You see many times where the city of Jackson came out and attempted to fix the issue, but there was never a time when the city of Jackson was negligent in repairing the issue. The city consistently responded to the complaints from citizens and did our best to fix the repair. And we did finally have a major repair in May of 2023 where we replaced 6 feet? 36 feet of the line.
Thank you, Tori, and thank you, Robert. Let me just say this for the benefit of our residents. Sometimes we use terms that not every person may be aware of. So we talk about a consent decree. Let me tell you what a consent decree is. Ultimately, it is an agreement between the city of Jackson and the federal government that we will have a plan of how we intend to repair the issue of our sewer over time. Based on the estimates of our consent decree, it is estimated that over several years, we're talking about decades, the decline of our sewer collection system has led to more than $1 billion of needed repairs within our sewer collection system. And so residents, when we tell you that we have a consent decree or when you see these issues, it's not a lack of political will in order to address it. We don't have $1 billion to fix this issue. And so that means that it will be addressed in increments over time. While I have been saying that we're trying to get a more realistic picture, is because the consent decree that we entered into in 2012, all parties agree that it isn't realistic that we can meet those goals. And so it doesn't help our residents, it doesn't help the federal government, and it doesn't help the city of Jackson to state goals that we cannot realistically meet. And so we are trying to, and what we have been aiming, our city attorney's office has been aiming to do, is to paint a more accurate picture of what we can do and the time in which we can do it. And so any resident who deals with sewer backup in their home, any resident who deals with sewer on their streets, we empathize with you. We regret that condition. We want to fix that condition. But this is something that has accumulated over time, and we don't have the ability overnight to correct it. So we ask for your communication. We ask for your patience, even though we know you have been patient, as we work to solve a challenge. What you should be encouraged by is just as we didn't have the money to fix our water system, as we have been complaining for decades in order for money to repair our drinking water system, we have been highly successful in getting historic amounts of money. And so we will continue to knock on every door. We will continue to look under every rock. we will continue to work with all willing partners and friends in order to address this challenge that has accumulated over time. With that, that concludes what we had for prepared statements or remarks. If you have any questions, we're prepared to take them at this time.
Mr. Mayor, regarding the homeowners with the sewage in their homes, can you tell us whether all the homeowners who filed claims, will they be compensated by the city?
What I will say is the homeowners who have filed claims, those claims have been evaluated, and if they meet the criteria under the consent decree, then they will receive payment. Likewise, if they meet the criteria where the city finds that there was some liability on the side of the city, they will be compensated.
So anyone who has sewage that backed up in their home, the city may not necessarily be liable? Is that what you're saying?
It depends. So there are definitely times when people have sewage backed up in their homes, and it's based on the pipes underneath their home, not the pipes that are responsibility of the city of Jackson.
But what if what's happening in their pipes under their home is a result of what's happening on the city side?
Then they would be
It would be up to them
compensated.
to prove
It's-
that, yeah.
So it's necessary that we distinguish which is true, right? Was it on account of the city, which it may be. I'm not here to say fact or fiction because I have not personally looked at the pipes, nor do I know this circumstance intimately enough to share that. But I will say, yes, as our city attorney has indicated, there are certainly times, because we're in a consent decree, because our wastewater infrastructure has aged, has collapsed, has declined over time so significantly, there are far more times than we should have that the city is liable. However, just as we have aged infrastructure, there are homes with aged infrastructure. Sometimes it is not on account of the city of Jackson, and so we have to take it by case scenario and determine which we're dealing with, whether it's a matter of the city being responsible or whether it's on the homeowner. Now, let me say this. I do believe in this case there's been $16,000 or more that has been paid out. So there has been some level of responsibility or whether we can say we take responsibility for, I want to be clear on my words. There's been some level of effort on behalf of the city, not only to pay, recognizing the challenge, and in addition to the $16,000 that has been paid directly to those residents, you have the efforts of the city to clean out the lines and repair. So to present this as an issue of the city not having concern, to present this as an issue of neglect, of a lack of compassion on the behalf of the city, when you have not only direct checks that have been issued, you have direct investment in the line in order to fix the problem, you have the effort in addition to fixing the line, a stretch of the line, to pump it out several occasions. It is a misrepresentation to suggest that the city has taken a blind eye to the challenge of our residents.
Mr. Mayor, I want to ask you about the Hank Aaron Sports Academy. They just replaced some lights with LED lights, and you were just talking about your support for that.
Yeah. Well, we're incredibly honored to have a program, a baseball program, in the city of Jackson that bears the name of the great Hank Aaron. I thank Mr. Tim Bennett not only for his hard work in trying to restore the facility, but the personal honor of allowing me to speak with Hank Aaron before he passed and his joy and excitement over this program. We know that Smithville, like some of the infrastructure we're talking about, has aged over time. And we need to make sure that we're making improvements to the facility so that it can, have just as bright of a future going forward, no pun intended, based on the lights, but it can have just as bright of a future going forward as we know the great past of Smithville Stadium. And so I think that the lights are a much needed addition, and we look forward to how it helps invite more tournaments, more games, more events at that venue.
In regards to the Cedar Lawn Cemetery, it's been over a year we've seen trash and debris problems. I'm curious, do you have any immediate plans in place right now to get this cleanup going?
You said the cemetery, seeing debris and everything. Well, unfortunately, we see the debris and trash accumulate in various parts of the city. We have several plans. Recently, you've heard us make the announcement of the with MDOT, the Hinds County Sheriff's Department, and MDOC to have some of our state inmates to pick up trash, and as they take care of some of our corridors and deal with that, then that allows us to move some of our resources and manpower to other areas, including our cemeteries. Our cemeteries are one of the most difficult areas for our maintenance crew to maintain, not only because of the trash and the litter that people may be insensitive to and throwing about at a place which should be about peace and rest, but also as they cut the grass. You have to remember there are headstones, there are obstacles in the way, so they can't just bring, a regular tractor through and cut the grass. It's very time consuming and challenging. We have been able to take advantage of partnerships with community groups with several of our cemeteries. So we look for creative solutions. We don't just look at a problem. We don't just say, hey, this is bad. We look at how we solve that problem and how we get creative. And so we may look for other relationships to help us maintain this. But we will look at that issue and see how we address it as quickly as possible. But more importantly, as we clean up these areas, as we clean up this area, we need to make sure that we clean up this spirit of entitlement that people have, that believe that you can throw trash and expect that someone else is going to pick it up. We will certainly do our job as the city in order to apply all of the resources, all of the money and talent that we can to challenges like this. But there is a problem when you believe that it is okay to throw trash in the cemetery or anywhere else for that matter. My mother used to say this to me, and I always say this when we talk about this issue. If you don't care for your house, no one else will. I do want to acknowledge in that, though, in some of our dump sites, some of the trash that we see, we know definitively that it is not just Jackson residents that are dumping in our city. We have people who come from other locations to dump in our city, and that is a problem.
Mr. Mayor, I wanted to ask you about something that we had found a couple of weeks ago with regard to homicides in the capital city. We had been talking with JD to try to get an answer on some of these numbers that appear to be different than what the department releases to the public. We found 24 homicides this year that the department had not released to us, had not released to the public. And again, I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on that. We've had that information, we've since put it out, but we're still trying to get more information to help assist these detectives in hoping to solve these cases.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. I appreciate your characterization of there being a difference of opinion in some of the numbers because, one, I think that there's the difference in agencies who have primary responsibility over some of those homicides. And we recognize that death has occurred within our city limits. But the same, if we have Capitol Police, for instance, that have primary jurisdiction over some areas, and while they have primary responsibility, if we're going to take credit for all of those numbers, then we want them to take credit for our numbers too, right? And we want everybody to recognize in that because we have more law enforcement, if you combine not only JPD and the people who are returning, along with the police force of Capitol Police, that puts us at a pretty high number of officers, more than we've had in some time. But yet and still, we still have this challenge. And I only make that illustration for this point. What it suggests is that while it is certainly important that we give our officers every tool that they need to do their job, that we not only support them financially with the equipment that they need, that we encourage people to come back, that we are doing them a disservice and ourselves a disservice if we believe that this is exclusively a policing matter. That is why we're making other investments and other tools for public safety, like our Office for Violence Prevention and Trauma Recovery. But to talk about the issue of the numbers that you're asking about, I will invite Chief Wade to speak some more.
All right. Thank you. To answer your question, CJ, first of all, year to date, today, we're at 97 homicides that the Jackson Police Department is working. 97. Compared to last year at this time, we were at 111. Now, let me put an asterisk, let me put a peg right there. That 97 does not include what Hinds County is working. It does not include what Capitol is working. But let me be clear about this. When we start talking about numbers, 97, I don't want to just focus on quantitative data. We're talking about someone's family member, someone's loved one. So my heart, prayers, and condolences go out to those families. Have I put measures in place to address this? Absolutely. I went a step further. I put the right people in place to address this. Chief Watts, the newly appointed Deputy Chief Banks, to address these issues. We understand we must be transparent. We understand that. I get that completely. I have empowered my team since I've been the chief to speak to the media, to be open with information. We're going to continue down that path. Now, has there been some issues with transparency in the past? Possibly. But I can speak under my watch that we will be transparent, we will get information out, and we will work with each family and will not just consider them as a number.
I had a follow-up. So those 24 were cases that Jackson Police did work, those were not Capitol Police
Yes.
that were not released to the media, were not
Yes.
told. So to your point about those families that are concerned,
Yes.
I just have to wonder, what if these families, the first time they're hearing about this,
Yes.
is a story we did 2 weeks ago where their family member was killed months ago.
Yes, absolutely. And based, I think the case you're talking about was an identification of the person, who he was. Now, that's a very good point. But what I want to say is that 12 of those homicides have been solved already. They've been solved. So the detectives are doing their job. They're doing their work. Now, going forward, we're going to make sure it does not happen, because I think some of the cases you're referring to are back January, February, and coming forward. We're going to make sure we have measures in place that it does not happen again. And again, my prayers go out to those families. I want to make sure that we are not re-victimizing them. They lost a loved one, and I take that very seriously. I worked in homicide for 9 years. I understand what that looks like. Making the next of kin notification is very important to those families. They don't want to find out on the news that their family member died. They want to find out from us. And I take the responsibility very serious.
If I could, let me say this. Just to be clear on that point, the Jackson Police Department, in its investigation, it has its own responsibility to reach out to the family members. While we certainly want to deliver information to the media, and any failure to do that in the past, you know, we not only acknowledge, but we learn from. I don't think that there was any intent, and I want to be clear on transparency. While there was not a press release maybe delivered at these times, these still were incorporated within the numbers that our Jackson Police Department had. They were still working the cases. They still solved half of them already. They still have a higher than the national average crime solvability rate. And so I think that we have to put these things in context. So this isn't just, we don't want you to know that your family member passed. And in the one instance where I think that there was an unidentified person, let's be clear that the Jackson Police Department works with the coroner's office in order to identify people, right? We don't have the skill set training or technical know-how to do identifications. We can only do that, you know, with the assistance of the coroner. So I want to make that clear. I also want to make clear, because there's a difference between press releases and incident reports, right? We don't release incident reports because there's still ongoing investigations, right? And so they have to take that on a case-by-case basis to determine what can be released and what cannot be released. I take Chief Wade at his word when he says that there's an effort and an intent to be more transparent, and so we can talk through these challenges and how, you know, you get what you would have gotten in a press release at that time, but an incident report is a different matter.
I think you're referring to investigative reports there, because statute clearly says that incident reports are public record.
Well, it's not what we release, right? So a public record, as you know, right, you can make a request, because what we're talking about is, you know, an effort of whether you have to pay for that public records request, if we want to talk about that, versus whether you get what you would get for free, right? And so you would get a press release for free. You don't necessarily get an incident report for free.
Ms. Mayor, can I ask you about this? The project on Riverside Drive is $850,000 additional that the city had to pay because someone didn't pay the invoices on time. Who's responsible for that?
So I want to share what happened. So ultimately, it was an expensive mistake that was made within our Public Works Department. Someone didn't enter the project into the system, into the contract into the system. And therefore, it didn't alert. We have Munis, which is a system that when you enter contracts, it not only lets you know the schedule in which things need to be paid, it monitors the project going forward. And so I think this was 2021, 22, that was not entered incorrectly. And therefore, it was an oversight, a very expensive oversight that took place because it was not in the system. There are some things that there may be differences of opinion on, whether it was a failure or not. There are things that are failures, right? And, we will address that for who made that mistake. But at the same time, we acknowledge it. And since that time, we have made changes in our Public Works Department that account and have checks and balances to make sure that that type of error of that person putting that contract in the system doesn't take place again.
Is someone going to be held responsible for that, as you said, costly mistake?
Well, I won't get into any personnel matters, but we will make certain that we have better systems of accountability and that we address that. I'll say this, that any time that more money needs to be paid on a project, that not only grieves me, but it is something that the residents should not endure. But just as we've had projects that unfortunately cost more money for various reasons, we've had a number of projects that we have been able to come less than the original amount. And so we need people to know that there's a balance there, right? That sometimes there are things that unfortunately cost more. Usually this isn't the circumstance that leads to that happening, right? But just as things sometimes cost more, we often find ways in order to save our residents millions of dollars on the projects that we do.
Any more questions? Thank you.
Nobody wants to ask about my lines?
Chief won, so Rob.
I don't have time to do it.
We rolled last night. Yeah, you did. You did. I had all the guys. Oh, y'all in trouble.